Hey, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2026. Today is Friday, January 2nd. And just as a reminder, my friends, this broadcast, as you can see down there due to the crawl, it is pre-recorded because even though I'm here right now, I'm not actually here live because I'm taking a little bit of time off, but everyone else is here. Things are moving along. So don't you worry. But can you tell I've got my new computer and it feels like I'm really clear, which is kind of freaking me out a little bit. But I feel like we're in super high def. But anyways, it's great to have all of you all here. I hope you had a joyous New Year's and a great New Year's Day celebration. But now we're back into the thick of it, back into the swing of things. So if you saw yesterday, the monthly mix for January launched. And it indeed, some of you guessed it, right? Mary Cassatt was the inspiration, and it was her painting. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here with you. So bear with me here just a second. Let me see. I think I can do it here. I think we're good to go. Bear with me here just a second while we do that. I think I have to set my let's see later. Okay, that's good. All right. I think we are good to go. Let me see if I can share this. Let's see. Yes, here it is. So let me show you. Let me highlight this screen and let me go over here. So you can see this is the monthly mix. It's called Lydia Reading. And it was a mix of Yuki A. seed beads chosen by Janice and Miranda. And this year's mix theme is women artists. And Janice chose Mary Cassatt as our inaugural inspiration. And I'll read a little bit here on the project page. It says, Janice chose Mary Cassatt as our first inspiration. One of Janice's favorite painters from childhood, Mary Cassatt was always a role model for her. Growing up wanting to be an artist, Janice gravitated to the Impressionists and Mary Cassatt in particular. She says, Janice says, it was Mary Cassatt who captured my imagination. I was just 9 or 10 when I tried to emulate her sheer mastery of pastels. She instilled her subject matter, children and mothers, with such genius. To this day, I never tire of her art. She's the most famous of the women Impressionists with very good reason. She studied in France, but was an American. Quite an amazing artist on every level. And here's the painting that Janice chose. And I think it is just a really terrific inspiration that Janice used. And so you can see in that mix, let me go back to the mix here. It's really a perfect encapsulation. And we've got some new seed beads in it. This matte opaque beige, the matte opaque golden olive luster, and then the metallic chocolate. Those are all new for this mix. So yeah, it was really fun. Let me take off this crawl here and let me bring myself back. So let me take this mix out. So now that you know what was going on, the thought behind the mix, let me share my project. And let me share my, whoops, my camera got a little moved around. There we go. Let me show you my inspiration, right, for all of this. So bear with me here just a second. Let me do that. All right. So I titled this one Frames because I used the seed beads in the mix. And at first, when I was doing this, it was not only an homage to our monthly mix, but I was thinking about um, Danielle Wicks and her piece that she made for us with the Dickens mix. And we still have some of that Dickens mix left. Let me see if I'm going to add this back. Let me show you Danielle's piece just so that we're all on the same page. Bear with me here just a second. Let me go here. Let me go to projects and let me pull hers up. Here it is here. It's Danielle's XOXO bracelet. And you can see this piece. It uses the Dickens monthly mix, which I love, love, love that colorway. You could also do this frames bracelet with the Dickens, or you could do my frames bracelet with the Dickens mix. So you can mix and match both of these. I did mine a little bit differently with a clasp, but I used that herringbone. And the herringbone, I don't know if you remember the project that we did, but Danielle taught us how to do the herringbone in a with an odd count herringbone, right? It was so attractive. I just loved the texture of this piece. Can you see that texture here? Just really how great it looks. And so I wanted to do it again. I wanted to use it again, but I didn't want to do an odd count. I wanted to do an even. So what we've got here, let's take a look at what we have, just the counts and everything, and then we'll move from there and I'll show you how I put it together. The stitch, the flat herringbone, goes so quickly. It's really a fast one to do. And you can see I have frame wise, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frames across. I had about this much of my tube left. Okay. And if we count the rows, the pairs of herringbone, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 pair or 8 rows. Okay. And the way that I laid this out was 2 rows here of this dyed watermelon, I think it is. And then I framed it with a single one here and here. And then in the center, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of just kind of mixed beads. Okay. And then I stopped with, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is a 9-row motif here. And you can make this motif as long as you want. Like you could make it a little bit longer, like more of a rectangle or whatever. I just kind of liked the looks of these kind of rectangles. They kind of had a postage stamp kind of feeling, kind of a quilt square kind of feeling. I really liked the way that they looked. So again, each of these motifs is 9 rows long, starting with 2 rows of a single color here and at the end, and then that same single color is the first and last bead in the motif. Now, what I did for this, you saw Danielle's piece. She used that Clio clasp for it. I'm going to prep this first before we get started on making this piece. I'm going to show you what my vision is for this. Because I thought it would be really fun to use this new vignette button and have a buttonhole on this side. Okay, I thought it would look great. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue this piece that I made down in the center. So I thought about this. This is just a strip of our ultra suede strip. You can get ultra suede and cut it down if you want. But what I did was I got our ultra suede strips, which are, let me do a measurement. They're about 8 inches by 2 inches. And first I thought that I'd just use a single one and I'd glue this on, but I felt that the ultra suede was a little thin. So I wanted a double, right? Kind of a double thickness of this. So I'm going to glue using the E6000. I'm going to glue these two together. We're going to let them sit. I'll show you how this pattern goes together, and then we'll come in. I'm going to add the button. We're going to do the buttonhole, and then we're going to finish up. And you can stitch this on if you want. I'm going to glue mine, right? I'm going to glue it with E6000. But the way that I'm going to start is, let's put these two strips together. So what I did was I got my 2-inch strip. I used my rotary cutter to cut it down the center. You've seen me do that before. You could also draw a line down the center and cut it with scissors, however you want to do it, right? This is the hunter green color. I think I'm going to go with, it's a little darker on one side. So I'm going to go with this lighter color on the exterior and the darker on the interior. So what I'm going to do, let's glue these together first of all. So I'm using this E6000. I've got a brand new tube here. And I'm going to come in, and we don't want to over glue, but we want to make sure that everything is glued down nice and tight and nice and sturdy, right? So I'm going to run that E6000 all the way down the edges of my piece here. And then I'm going to use a little stick or a toothpick to kind of spread it around. But the E6000, I think, will work very nicely. Okay, so there that is. I've done that. Okay, I want to be really careful. I don't want to get any E6000 on my board. I should get a piece of paper here probably, because you never know if this glue is going to kind of spurt out, right? So this is the E6000 that I've laid down, and I'm going to get my toothpick. You can get like a popsicle stick or whatever. I'm just going to come in and I'm going to kind of spread this out. Spread this out. So I've got kind of a thin layer. It's setting up kind of fast for me today. But let's go ahead and really see how I'm getting that nice thin layer. We don't want it to be too gloopy, right? Can you see how it's giving me a nice surface here? And E6000, I know you'll all be wondering, like, well, Kate, can we use a different glue? The E6000, in my opinion, is the best glue for this, of the glues that we carry. Now, if you had maybe like a flexible glue, like some tacky glue or something like that, or fabric glue, you could use that too, right? But I want to make sure that this is coming all the way over to the edges. I don't want to get any glue on my ultra suede here. So this looks good. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that I don't get glue on this. So I'm gonna kind of flip this paper over. I'm gonna lay that down. I've got to work kind of quickly here. I'm gonna lay that down, and I'm gonna come in and I'm going to line up these two edges. It's a little hard for you to see, but I'm going to line up these two edges and lay this on top like that. I want to make sure that I'm even here. So I haven't really pressed anything together. I just want to make sure that everything is lined up. It looks like it is. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to really apply pressure here on this. Okay. And my glue, it's really already started to set up, which is kind of crazy. So I'm going to add, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to add just a little bit more. Let me just do that. I thinned out that layer quite a bit. So maybe, and I wanted to show you gluing live. I thought, well, I could glue this beforehand and stuff, but I think giving you some technique with the glue is always a good idea. So there's that. Let me get this again. Let's work kind of quick and let's get this on there. Okay. Let's not press it until it's lined up. You can kind of reposition. And now I'm going to flatten. There we go. That looks good. That half is good. Let's check this other half. Yeah, see that needed. It really, maybe it's the ultra suede, maybe it's the atmosphere in the it's kind of cold in the studio right now when I'm working. No one's been in here all day, so it's a little chilly. Not very humid, right? So all of that affects the way that this E6000 sets up, right? So let me get this kind of back through here, back, get it on there. Again, I don't want too much glue to kind of spurt out the sides, but let's lay it on there. Check it and press. Okay. Yeah, good. Now, what I'm going to do while I'm working here is I'm going to put this under a book. I've got a book here, like a heavy book like this. Okay. And I'm going to place this right here on my mat. There we go. I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to press it down with that book, add a little bit of weight, and maybe the tape dispenser on top of that. Okay. That will really, I think, help to just to help it set. And again, if I were doing this not in demo time, but maybe I'd do it the night before and I would then have it set overnight. But we're gonna see how that sets up. Okay, so it's got this weight on it. Let me put it a little more. Yep, it's right in the middle. It's right there. We are good to go. Okay, so let's take a look at the method of putting this together. So I'm gonna dump out some of this mix. Let me get what I'm using is Fireline, right? I've used the ultra suede that we carry. Again, I used one of our strips in the Hunter colorway, Hunter Green, but you can cut your own, or if you don't have, you don't want to grab ultra suede, you could use anything really. I was playing around. Let me show you before we move further. I was playing around with the ultra suede and I was stitching it, right? So I folded it in half and I actually stitched it with my sewing machine. I kind of liked the way that this looked, but I wasn't really sure how I wanted to treat the edges and stuff. Maybe I would have folded them over, stitched them down. I'm not really sure, but I think this has potential, but I just didn't see the idea all the way through. But you could certainly do something like this too with something you have at home. what I did here was I stitched it in a contrasting color to kind of pull out that peachy, that dark kind of peach pink that's sitting there. And I thought that looked kind of nice. But I went with the plain instead. But this is another kind of interesting idea that you may want to explore. So let me show you how this goes together. So I'm going to come in and remember when Danielle taught us that XO bracelet, she kind of sorted her beads a little bit. What I did was I just kind of took a look at the colors in here, and then I decided what my first frame was going to be, and it was actually this one, the bronze. Okay, so I came in and that's a reject bead right there for sure. What I did was I came in and I counted out the number of beads I was going to need for the frame. So let's do that. This is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 16 and 16, I believe, right? If that's 16, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. I think that I had a miss bead right here. We'll just pretend that that was correct. So 32, 34, 36, 30, no, 5. So 32 plus 5 on that side, 5 on that side. So it's 42 beads for each frame. Okay. So if you want, you can come in, you can count out your piles of 42. That would be your frames. Okay. Here. Then the ones in the center are just random. Okay. So let me get my bronze. That's some there. Let me kind of pick them out. And what I did in the center of the frame, when it was the bronze color, I didn't use any of the bronze in the interior. Same thing here. When it's this peach, I didn't use any of the peach here. When it was this matte beige, I didn't use any in the center. There's another color that's kind of like it. I don't know if that helps or hinders or not or whatever. I don't think you have to be that fussy, to be honest, right? I think that maybe if you use a whole mix on the inside of the frame, it'll be fine. You know, I don't know. I can't really decide, but you decide what works. You can also, if you wanted, you could pick up an extra tube of any of the colors that you like, and you can make the frames all the same color going across, or like, you know, so it would be like these would be all the same color, and then there would just be the squares of the kind of random pairing in the middle of those squares. Or you could get 2 colors, you know, and go back and forth. It just depends. So, but if you're doing this kind of like I did it here, all you need is 1 tube, right? I didn't run out of anything. It all worked out. So that was good. Let me count what I have here. Now we're probably close. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 1, 32. I just need 10 more now. So that's 2, 4, 6. I think I'm going to be 1 shy. 8, 9. I got to get 1 more out of there. 1 more out of the tube. Isn't that funny? I was just short 1 bead. Let me see. There it is right there. Okay. So there's my 42. That's ready for my frame. So to start, and you can go to the XOXO bracelet and you can download Danielle's handout. Okay, it'll be super helpful. Now, Danielle was great and did like the word chart and did a chart for this and everything. You're not going to get that from me. You're just not. I don't have that kind of time in my life. And you can kind of use Danielle's handout and then you can kind of adapt it to this pattern. Okay, so I'm going to use the fire line like Danielle did, and I'm going to use a size 12 needle, but you could use a size 10. Doesn't really matter what you use. So I'm going to come in. I think she says to start with, I don't know, maybe 90 inches or something. It's a pretty long piece. I added thread as I went along, but you can consult her measurements for her bracelet with the as far as how much thread to cut. Okay, so I've strung this up. To start with the herringbone stitch, we do a ladder. Okay, so I'm going to start with 4 beads here. Let me get a little tighter so you can see this in here now. So hang on, let me do this. Now with my new computer, the program and everything is a little different. So I hope it's not too confusing and it's clear for you. Okay, so here I'm going to leave a bit of a tail, maybe like a 5-inch tail there. So I'll come in and weave it in later, but I'll get that 4 and I'll go in, bring them around so they sit one next to the other like that. And then I will go back through like that. Okay. And I think what Danielle tells us to do, she may have gone all the way around again just to reinforce. Let's see, it's this one right here. Yeah, there we go. And up that first one, and then again, sorry, back down the second. I need to make sure I'm staying in frame. Okay, so there's that. So we're going to ladder, so we have 8 rows or 4 pairs of beads. So see, I go from that stack there, I go down to the stack I just put on. And again, if you consult her handout for that bracelet, she shows you how to put this row on, but it's very easy. I'm going to get 2 more. We'll come around, do this ladder. This is also, how we start brick stitch. So many things start with this ladder stitch. So I'm halfway there. I've got 4 on. I just need to put on 4 more or 2 more pair. Okay. So back through. There's the 5th one, the 5th stack. Here's stack number 6. This is a new color for us. This is metallic chocolate. So pretty. It's a little bit different than bronze. It has a little more of a brown. It's a little darker, I think. I like it a lot. So this is 2, 4, 6. Here's stack number 7. And we'll come up that stack and we'll go down. Okay, like that. Just like there. Okay, and now down here. All right, so now we are going to herringbone. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to put these on in stacks of 2. Okay, so I want this outer one here to be, you know, to be my frame, right? So I'm going to start with that bronze. And then I'm going to pick up whatever color I want to go next, which is there. And I'm going to go down. Oh, it looks like I've got a thread misstep here. I'm not going to worry about it. We're just going to go down that second one, right? The one from inside it. And see how we've got our first herringbone step. Now we're going to come up the first one in the second pair of stacks here. And this is just going to be random, whatever color you want it to be. So I'll use that, I don't know, these two right here. I'm going to go down that one. So see how they sit in that little herringbone, that little V almost. I'll come up through the top bead in that next stack. Give it a nice tug. Choose my next pair. Go down. And you can repeat the colors too if you want, you know, whatever works. I'm going to come up here, and then my first one that I do is going to be a random choice of color. And then the next one is going to be the bronze, because the bronze goes at the end. Now we have to turn around for our next row. And this is how I do my turnaround for my herringbone. Okay, so we're like this. Now we want to exit from this bead up here. Sometimes a lot of people, what they do is they just go up along the side and bring your needle up and come back. I like to hide, so since I'm not doing any like picot or anything around the ends of these, around the edges, I like to hide that thread. So what I do is I go back, I go through the second bead in the row below, and then I go up that first bead. Okay, so instead of carrying my thread along the outside, I go in one diagonal to the first. Okay, the first one in the row. Tighten it up, and you can see my thread is in the right position. If you just want to jump up and have your bead show or have your thread show on the side, that's perfectly fine, but my preference is to bury it. So now I'm going to come back. I've started with that bronze, and I'm going to come up through that next one. And remember, this is the stitch with the herringbone. You're connecting it, you know, in this row below. The one that you've put on, they're like individual little pillars until you come back for the next row, and then they get stitched together. Okay. It really makes everything go nice and fast. I really like how it looks. So we're going to go back through that V, right? So you can see it's already starting to take shape. If you kind of need to coax it a little bit to get it to sit in that herringbone, you can. Sorry, my throat got kind of dry. I had to grab my water here. Hang on a second. There we go. I didn't mean to leave you so abruptly, but you can kind of see what that looks like. So let me come in, pick up two more. go down, and I'll show you that turn one more time. Okay, there's my little V. I'm going to come up, bead next to it, and we'll do our last set. We'll do this one and then the bronze. So now, again, that turnaround, let me repeat, you could just go up the side and up through that bead, right? You'll see the thread along the outside of this bead, but if it doesn't bother you, then don't worry about it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that step back. I'll go up. Sometimes if you have to do it in two, you can go there and then go up this one, the one on the edge, tighten it up, and now you are ready for your next one. And as you come across, can you see how this first row that I put on, since I stitched, it's gotten stitched down. It looks nice. So this next row, as I come across, this row will all be stitched together. Let me see if I can zoom in just a hair here, if you can see that. Just like that. Okay, so you're going to continue in pattern. Okay, and let me go over that pattern with you once more. Here's the edge. Here's where I've started. So you're going to make 5 interior. The inside of the frame is 5 rows. You can make it longer. I just did 5 because that's what I like the look of. But you can make it longer, whatever. You could do it skinnier strips, whatever you like. You decide, right? What works for you. But if you're doing it like I'm doing it, you start with 2 rows of a solid. Then you band that solid on the top and on the bottom, and you fill it in with 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 rows of the solid color. Then you go to your next frame. Okay, so this length, what this length gives me, let me put it next to my ruler here. This gives me about, this ends up being about 5 3/4. Okay, so the way that I wanted this to sit, let's take a look at how we want to size this now. Okay, so what I did was, let's see how our little strip is doing over here. Yeah, great. Looks good. It's all glued together. We're ready to go. It's a little off, but not by much. It's really fine. I could come in here and trim this down a little bit, and maybe I will after I put the bracelet on, but I'm not going to worry about it so much right now. So this is going to go kind of right there in the center. But first, what I want to do is I want to size this strip to my wrist. The way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to start by sewing on my button. Again, this is an 8-inch strip. I'm going to have a little bit of overlap. So when I sew this button on, I'm going to bring this around and I'm going to do a little buttonhole. I'm going to actually slice this ultra suede, which is kind of fun because the ultra suede doesn't ravel. So I'm going to have like a button and buttonhole here. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to actually just cut this off of here for now because I'm going to use the fire line to stitch this button on. So I'm going to tie a little knot here at the end, and I'll cut it kind of right there. And I'm going to go in about, where's my little ruler? Everything kind of looks like my little ruler, but none of them is. Let me just use, it was literally sitting here just a second ago. Did I put it under here? Nope. Is it under my book? Nope. Well, that's okay. I'll just measure it on my board right here so you can see it. I'm going to go in about, the shank of the button is going to sit about about 3/8. You can't really see it because it's off the thing, but let me see if I can get it in. It's going to be about 3/8. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, about 3/8 in from that edge. Okay. So let me, sorry, excuse me. I'm going to just kind of eyeball this. You can measure it a little bit better than I'm doing, but see, here we go. I'm going to go needle down, and the needle slides right through that E6000. I'm just going to do a little stay stitch right there. I'm going to put on my button, and I'm just going to come in and stitch it down. Okay. Now, I know I'm using white thread here, and it is going to show on the back of this. I do want you to see it, which is why I kept using my my fire line. You could stitch this with KO. That's more of a color match. Or you could go to your threads if you've got sewing threads. You can stitch it on with a sewing thread. I like using this fire line because it is so what do I want to say? So slick, I guess. And it really glides through this ultra suede really nicely. So, and if you were using the smoke, maybe that wouldn't show up quite as much. But it's such a small little stitch that it doesn't really matter. We go through the shank of the button and back down. I would do this, and you could do this with a doubled over thread. I didn't really do that, though I don't know why I didn't do that, because I know how to sew on a button, but I guess I wasn't really thinking. So there we go. And we'll do that. Send it through the button shank. It feels pretty sturdy on there. And now I'm just going to knot it off. I'm going to go through kind of the little stitches that I did here in the button. Let me see if I can get a little tighter there. And I'm going to tie the knot on this side. Okay, so I'm going to go through there. I'm going to loop. I'm going to loop one more time. I'm going to send my needle through once, twice, tighten it down, come in and clip, and I could add a little dot of GS Hypo to that if I wanted, but I'm not going to bother with it right now. Okay, so that's sewn on there. So now let's size this to my wrist. I'm going to come around, and I need some movement here. Okay, I don't want it to be super tight. So I'm going to cut my buttonhole across this way. Okay, so if I look at this and I measure and I use my caliper, this button is about 14 millimeters across. Okay, we want the buttonhole to be slightly smaller. So maybe I will close it to somewhere about 12.5. And I wanted to go in about right here, right? I'm going to center it. Let me make a little mark. I probably wouldn't make this mark quite as dark as I'm going to make it for you to see it. But let me see. I need a... So I'm going to make it, this overlap is about right there. And I'm going to make my mark. So that looks about right. That's where my buttonhole is going to go. Now I'm going to double check it before I do anything else. I know that the button is going to kind of sit in the center of that. So I'm going to wrap this around my wrist again. And I'm going to just check that when that is open, that's about right. And it fits. I don't want it to be too tight, right? So that looks about right. So now what I'm going to do is, you can get a seam ripper, you can get a little pair of scissors, whatever, but you want to be careful. I'm actually going to fold this in half like this, and I'm going to give it a little snip on that line with my real sharp pair of scissors. Now I'm going to open it up. I can get my scissors in there. I'm going to clip it that way, and I'm going to clip it that way. And again, I marked this pretty dark so you can see it, but I might be a little more careful with that. Okay, so now I can test it. I'm going to bring it around and I'm going to see. So see, you don't want it to be, I mean, that buttonhole, it looks small, right? But it stretches. So because you don't want it to be too fat there. Look at how nice that looks. Now, you could come in, if you wanted to, and bead the edges of this if you wanted. You could do a picot stitch off the edge of this here, you know, whatever you wanted. I think it would look really nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to neaten up this edge. See how I've got that little bit of a glue edge there. So I'm just going to come in with my real sharp scissors and I'm going to neaten that up. I could cut it with my rotary cutter, but I don't think it warrants it. See, that really makes it a lot neater. I'm going to check the back. The back looks pretty good. I'm not going to worry about that, but I didn't want it, that front, this glue to show, right? So now what I'm going to do, I could stitch this on if I wanted, okay? And I may even come back in and add a few stitches like on the corners here to tack it down there and there if I wanted, but I'm going to glue. Okay, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. Now, knowing what we know from gluing this previously, okay, and I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm not going to measure. To my eye, I think that looks right. This is the center square right there. So I'm going to slide it off. I'm going to open my E6000. I'm going to put a dot down and I'm going to work with determination. I'm going to come in. I'm going to put it close to the edge Slide it down. Slide that glue. Don't dilly-dally. Get this on there. Check for placement. And then press it down. Okay. I'll also press it from the back. You don't want so much glue that it's going to come up between the beads. But see, that's really, that's good. So let me do this. Let me come in. I'm going to pull this back a bit. I'm going to kind of put this, that looks about right. I'm going to spread this across. That looks right. Tamp it down. Pull this back. Glue it across. Slide that glue. I can even slide it on the back of my beads a bit. But I don't want this to go beyond this beadwork. Okay, that looks terrific. Let's do this side. Isn't that pretty? I'm really happy with it so far. Hopefully I'm not speaking too soon. Okay, let's glue this side. Let's extrude some of that glue out. Bring it down. See how I went in the middle? Excuse me. Let's run it down the center here. Toothpick's really nice tool for this. Get it a little closer to the edge. Slide that down. I'm going to push it from the back to really get that in there. And we'll just come in and we'll do this last little bit. I'm really trying to get the glue close to the edges. But again, I don't want any overlap. So there it is. It's kind of crazy gluing this beadwork down, right? You're like, oh, I don't know. But this E6000 is really doing the job. Needs just a little bit right there. Okay. Let's see what I've got. Great. Now, I'm really going to press this down. Now, what I would do, again, for this, I might put this back under my book. Maybe turn it over, weight it down, let it dry, right? Then you can come in, you could do your picot edging like afterwards here if you wanted, or do a picot edge here. This edge is not quite as even as I'd like it. There we go. That looks good. Minimal amount of glue on the front. Looks pretty good. I want to be careful because I don't want this to, to buckle or anything. So I am going to make sure before my glue is dry and everything, I want to button it. I'm going to come in and I want to make sure that kind of crept out a bit. So be careful. What I might recommend doing, and I'm kind of screwing with this a little too much, but I'm seeing if I can roll this E6000 off where I don't want it to show. There we go. That's not too bad. If we let it go and dry in the round like this, I think that's the best way to do it. And what I would actually do is before I glue these ends like this and this to avoid, look, I got some glue there. I don't like it. But I'm not going to try and screw with it too much. I might be able to get some of that off afterwards. I say I'm not going to screw with it too much, but you can see me screwing with it. So what I can do is I can come in. I've got my little blade right here. After it's dry is probably the best time, but you can come in and kind of shave that off a little bit and it'll be all right. I could also come in, if you get glue here, you could come in and stitch, do another little top stitch. I bet you could even still herringbone through these and glue this down. So, you've got some options. So this might need a little bit of extra gluing as well after it sets, right? So I would glue it down. I would, instead of weighting it like I was thinking, what I would do is I'd let this sit. Then if this needs to be glued down, see it's lifting a little bit, I'll come back in and I'll glue it. Maybe I'll glue it now, just so it's glued. Okay, oops. I just dropped one glue, but thankfully I've got another one. I'm going to come in, I'm going to add it to the end of these beads. Bring it in and take off that extra. There we go. Just like that. Looks good. I'm going to try and get some of that extra off right there. I think this would benefit from a little more beadwork there. I mean, if you wanted, we'll see. But I think it looks pretty nice. Doing a picot on this edge would look great, I think. To make this really sit, I could come in and I could get my clampers like that. This side is looking pretty good. This side, I think, wouldn't hurt from being clamped down. But look at how nice that is. And the little edge of the ultrasuede is just fine. It's adhered together really nicely. That picot edge stitch would be nice. You can just do like a little whip stitch here with a bead on the top, a little bit of bead embroidery. I think it would look nice. But there we are. There is the frames bracelet using our monthly mix from January 2026. I hope this gives you a bunch of great ideas. It was really a fun one to make. Now, if you like this, this pattern, but you don't want to do the glue, you could do that same thing like Danielle did. And let me put it back on the screen. See how she used that Clio clasp at the end? You could just do that, connect that Clio. You'd make this maybe one section longer, right? Because I made it purposefully a little bit shorter so it would fit, because I needed this to kind of glue here on the end. But there we go. That's pressing down nicely now. Let me see if I can, I don't know. I don't want to disrupt it too much. But let me see if I can just get it around my wrist here. and get it buttoned. Yeah, that ultra suede makes a nice buttonhole. Look at how nice that looks in the bangle. Let me do that. Right? It really looks terrific. A great stacker with everything else. And I wanted it to have a little bit of movement, so I measured it. So it overlaps about an inch. So this is a little over 7 probably, because my wrist is 6.5 inches. So I think it sits just perfectly. But my friends, that is it. That's all she wrote. I hope you've had fun with me today on this Free Tip Friday. Again, do remember that this broadcast is a pre-recorded one. Let me take this off so I'll lay it there. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Pick up your mix. We'll have this up as a project, so you'll be able to consult it. But essentially, what you need is the ultra suede strip. This is 1 inch wide. If you were cutting your strip or whatever, you could make it a wider band if you wanted. But this is 8 rows across, even count herringbone with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little windows, little frames. Button of choice, I use that our vignette button, but we have a lot of really spectacular buttons that you can choose from. Fireline, I use the 4-pound right there. And I used a size 12 beading needle, but you could use a 10 as well, whatever works. Okay. Well, thank you so much. The rest of the broadcasts while I'm away are going to be replays. I'll have them all scheduled. It'll be fun. They'll show live. You'll be able to watch the replays. I think they'll be fun for you to revisit. So stay tuned to the newsletters. Miranda and I have a couple of things up our sleeves for while I'm gone, but I will be back live with you on Wednesday, the 14th. So all of next week, next Wednesday and Friday, those will be rebroadcasts for you. Okay. Mark your calendars. We have the Great Bead Extravaganza coming up. Preview night is the 16th, Friday the 16th, and then Saturday the 17th and Sunday the 18th. Later on in the month, we have Danielle's February box launching. So there's more on that to come. Okay. Have a fantastic weekend. Have a great week next week. And I'll see you back live when I'm back. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate you being here. Happy New Year.